we're continuing our interview series where we're bringing in experts from the field. And I'm so happy to have Zach with us today because one of the requests we've been getting is, hey, Eric, can we have somebody that's sort of fairly new to being a CISO, that's been a CISO for sort of 3 to 5 years, and that sort of can give us some tips and tricks to how to get there. And I tell you, Zach reached out and I was super thrilled because that's exactly what we were looking for. Welcome to Life of a CISO. I'm Dr. Eric Cole, your host, and we'll be taking you on a journey each week on what it takes to be a CISO and what are solutions that you can implement today if you are currently a Chief Information Security Officer or if you want to be one in the future. This is Life of a CISO. Welcome, 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 welcome. You know what time it is. It is time, my friends. It is time for Life of a CISO with yours truly. Dr. E is in the house. And we've been getting such great comments and great feedback. We're continuing our interview series where we're bringing in experts from the field. And I'm so happy to have Zach with us today because one of the requests we've been getting is, hey, Eric, can we have somebody that's sort of fairly new to being a CISO, that's been a CISO for sort of 3 to 5 years, and that sort of can give us some tips and tricks to how to get there. And I tell you, Zach reached out and I was super thrilled because that's exactly what we were looking for. So Zach, welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Cole, for having me on. It's a great honor.
And I would sort of introduce you as sort of anybody that can be in a CISO role for 5 years sort of gets my salute because a lot of CISOs only last a few years and struggle. So good on you. And we'll get into it more, but can you maybe just give a minute or two bio sort of about yourself, sort of where you work, what you do, and then we'll sort of delve into how you got there and where the future's going.
Yeah, no, that's great. So I'm currently the CISO for the University of Health Sciences and Pharmacy. We're in St. Louis, Missouri. It's the third oldest pharmacy school in the country, been around over 150 years. I've been here in this role for about 5 years now. I came up through a tech startup was my first job, and pivoted into some energy and coal plants, and then kind of shifted over to higher ed. I've been in higher ed now a decade, 11 years, something like that. But several different industries and different jobs came up through the IT side, you doing sysadmin work, network administration, different things like that, and found a need in security and sort of pivoted over into that area.
Awesome. And I love that because one of the things in cyber, it's very diverse. A lot of people think like once you start in one swim lane, like healthcare or finance, you're locked in for life. What I love is it sounds like you sort of switched almost 3 different domains. So can you sort of take us back and walk us through sort of getting that first job, any lessons learned, and then what was your reasoning for sort of switching? Because that's I love the switch, it's pretty drastic going to sort of coal and mining and then going to higher ed. So can you sort of walk us through that and give us some tips and tricks?
Yeah, definitely. So when I was in college, I took an internship with like a co-location facility where they stored servers and networking equipment for various companies, and I kind of monitored that equipment and made sure it was fine. It was an internship, and I just gotten that job and gotten to an interview with a tech startup company through the university to practice interviewing skills and stuff like that. And I kind of sort of blew it off like it wasn't a big deal because I had this job, so I just had fun with it. And they asked questions like, what's your greatest strength and your weakness? And I said, I'm Batman and I have trouble discerning reality. They thought it was great, and I guess those kind of flippant answers sort of was like a really good fit for their culture, being a startup, and they offered me a job on the spot. So when I went out and viewed the facility, I was like, "Oh, this is awesome!" It's really California feel startup, Mario rooms, pool tables, massages, bars, stuff like that. So I had to accept. So I jumped in there as their client.
Sorry, I'll just stop you quick because there's a huge nugget of gold there, which for the audience is when you're interviewing, the more relaxed, the more fun you have, the more chill, the better chance you get. And I have a similar one when I was in college. And I went to the intern office and they're like, oh, the CIA is coming tomorrow. And because I was young and naive, I had no clue. So yeah, I showed up like you and I'm laughing and cracking jokes, which you're not supposed to do, but they love seeing that. So I think that's a great nugget is be yourself. The more relaxed and fun you have, the better it is. I never heard giving that answer Batman, but I'm going to use that if I ever interview again. So continue, my friend. I just didn't want to lose that nugget.
No, that's good. Yeah, definitely.
Batman.
For sure. Yeah, so I went there, became their sort of end user support, and then eventually the system administrator. Worked there for 3 or 4 years. They outsourced and got purchased, so I was looking for a job again. And that's when I got into the coal company. They needed a desktop administrator. I went on there and started doing some desktop administration, a lot of Microsoft SCCM and packaging applications and messing with the OS. I got an opportunity a couple years after that to go to a college and be an engineer there, essentially doing a lot of what I was doing at the coal company, but on a larger scale, more users, a little bit more responsibility, a little bit more money. So for me, it made sense to pivot. So I made that jump, and then things just really took off from there. So I started finding places where I could provide value, maybe do things a little bit more efficiently. I was only in that role for maybe 6 months before they promoted me up to a network and systems administrator. And then I think one of the big pivots after that was I learned of a guy who was leaving, and he was a director of the technical support team. And he was going to leave. So as soon as I heard that guy was moving on and leaving the company, I went to the CIO and I said, hey, I can do that job. Nothing that says I can't. I have the technical skills, and I just haven't managed anyone before, but I feel like I can do it. I got a good rapport with the team, and they gave me an opportunity. So I took that and ran that team very efficiently for a couple of years, to the point where I left and went to another university after having my first kid. And the COO, who sort of managed the IT team at the first college, called me up one day, and he was like, "Hey, our CIO has left. You were great when you were here. We want you to come back and run the IT department." And I was like, "Man, that's an awesome opportunity." So I pivoted back.
So you switched back to the first university.
Switched back to the first university.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. It's nice when they want you to come back, right?
It's always a compliment when they call you back, because everyone says it, but yeah, that truly shows your character, my friend. So congrats.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I did that for a while, and then now the next job was the university that I'm at now. Came on there sort of as an IT director, but there was a need for security. There was no security department, not really a security program or framework. So I started sort of researching, reading some books, watching some podcasts, and picking up on that, and knew we needed to modernize, to adapt. So I built a framework for the university. I built a program for the university, brought on the people, brought on how we're measuring stuff, how we're checking stuff, started building some tools in, and got the title of Chief Information Security Officer once I started, having a team to actually manage and do some stuff with. And right now we're at the point where all of IT reports up through me, which is not normal in most cases, but I have all of IT and security and the library, because of university, why not? Whatever they feel like they can throw to you. And so many hats, and that's kind of where we are right now.
Awesome. So there's two things I want to sort of pull apart a little bit, because I think it's of interest and breaks a lot of the myths. The first one is, it sounds like when you went to be the CISO, you really didn't have much cyber. You had IT and technical knowledge, but good leadership. And can you sort of comment on that? Because a lot of the people I coach and on the calls, like Eric, I don't have enough cyber experience. I don't have enough technical skills. And my thing is, as long as you have some general knowledge of like servers, routers, switches, those things, you can easily move up. So can you sort of comment on the transitioning from IT to security, where you didn't have a lot of background, but how you built that up and how you got that job?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually think if you're going to be in cybersecurity, having some sort of foundational knowledge of how networks work, how OSs function, and how computers sort of work and communicate is almost essential if you want to protect it. You need to know about the stuff that you're protecting on some foundational level. When I go and talk to students who are graduating college or who are in IT programs, security programs at different universities around the area, the ones in cybersecurity are like, they think they're superheroes and they're going to go in and save the university. And then you ask them about, a networking protocol or something, and they have no idea. Like, man, you really need to know how this works. So I think there's some good knowledge there that people should take away. You don't have to be a sysadmin or some network engineer for years and years and years, but learning the basis of how things work is really good. For the security side, again, I think I watched a handful of LinkedIn learning videos. I got a CISSP book and read through it. Eventually got certified in it, but just started getting some of the principles down. What are the different frameworks out there? Let read through NIST, read through the CIS critical controls, and just kind of understand what it is you're asking for. I mean, a lot of that stuff, is multi-factor authentication, have some email protection in place, do some user training, like scale, just decrease that attack surface. And once you start seeing those repeated over and over again, you can kind of start, I guess, extrapolating those out to different areas and really implementing them and just getting started somewhere. Just a framework and start, and then you can improvise and kind of grow from there.
Now, I love that. And so that the listeners break that down, there's sort of three things to be like a CISO. You need that technical knowledge, the IT, so the router switches, OSs. You sort of need the general security knowledge. And then you have sort of the frameworks that are more at the strategic level. And the cool part is you probably need one of those, like Zach had one, and then he learned the other two. So figure out which ones you don't have, and then start reading, learning, and you can actually get that. So when you get that CISO, you're that very well-rounded individual. And then the next thing I wanted to comment on, which, like I said, the more we talk, the more you're impressing me, because I sort of say there's three stages of organization. There's the immature organization where the CISO reports to the CIO, which I will to my grave say that's a disaster waiting to happen. You then have sort of level 2 where the CISO and the CIO are equal. And then you have what I call the advanced mature organizations where the IT or CIO reports to the CISO, because to me, IT is really availability. And that's just one of the three subsets of security. So you said IT reports to you. Was that something you created or you inherited? And how does that work? Is it too much of a headache, or do you think it's a good balance?
I think it depends on the organization. So for us, I was brought in as the IT director to start. And so I guess in some instances, depending on your definition, you could say, oh, Zach, you're the CIO or you're the CISO. I cut my teeth and really got, I guess, more known in the industry for security work. So I always hang my hat on that with that CISO title, and I like to take that with me wherever I go. So, I was running IT. I became the CISO, brought in for that. The team, runs through me, and now they have sort of security first in mind. They know that's what I'm going to ask about, what I'm going to care about. So when we're looking at new applications, when we're, building tools, security is very forefront of mind, and we're going to make sure that things are protected, things are secure based on the, requirements and the parameters I've set in this program.
Awesome. And let's sort of walk through sort of your 5 years. So if you can go back, I'll sort of take you a little bit on memory lane, but sort of first year. I know a lot of CISOs struggle because what I hear a lot with my clients is like the first year, they want to come in and sort of change everything and disrupt everything. And what I always say is learn and understand the environment, build the relationships, and then go in. So I'd love to know your thoughts, like your first year, how did you approach it? And what was sort of your biggest challenges or learning?
Yeah, so my first year, I came to the university in January of 2020. And in the first month in January, I had to do a board report and talk to the audit committee right out of the gate. So I was very new, pretty much just let them know I was still learning the environment. We had no big changes, but we knew some stuff had to happen. So just talk to them, but shortly after that is COVID, right? So
2020, it's funny how quickly we forget. I was thinking 21, so I was wondering, but okay, you're right. Yeah, because I remember, just so you have a fun thing, my birthday's in February, and they threw a big surprise birthday party for me. I love a piano bar at Georgetown on that Saturday. And like you hear people mumbling about it, and that Tuesday is when the world shut down. So everyone jokes the world couldn't handle me turning 50. So yeah, could continue. But yeah, I forgot that's the COVID time. Oh, so you've been there like 2 months, and then COVID hits.
Yeah. Okay. And again, we're a university. We've been an on-campus university forever. So COVID happens. We send the kids home for spring break. We actually extend spring break an extra week because we're trying to figure out how to do everything remotely. We're going to send the employees remote. We're going to send the students remote, and that we weren't built for it at the time. So from an IT side, it was, hey, stand up some systems like, IMing and video conferencing and, remote learning type stuff. And then on the security side, it was, well, how do you protect all that? We got to open this up. Like everyone needs VPN access to come in. Are they coming in from their home computers? Are they coming in from work computers? Like how are they going to get in? What are they going to be accessing? So it was a lot of just throw the gates open and then button it up after the fact as people start coming in, because that's what we had to do in a short time frame. Fast forward kind of through COVID, as we're doing that, the university decides we're going to change our name during COVID. So we actually did a big project where the root domain name, like everything that's kind of housed around in IT and security, had to be changed, and all of our systems had to get migrated and moved. So we have this really huge lift happening. And so there wasn't a whole lot of time there at the very beginning to think about how are we going to layer these systems on, how am I going to build these frameworks in and install all this security and change the hearts and minds of everybody, because we're doing a lot of firefighting, we're moving quickly and adapting, and the whole world was, right? Something you didn't plan for, things you can't foresee happening. But we get through that. The next couple of years go okay. That's where we start really layering on the security stuff. I'm going around talking to departments, talking to department heads, going to department meetings, and really talking to people about what we're doing, why we're going to do this, sending out a lot of communication, starting to find some new systems to add on into our environment that kind of makes us a little bit more secure than we've been in the past, and trying not to hamper the workflow that people have been used to for 150 years, right? And we're now just putting this on. I will say in 23, we had our first ransomware incident, and I talk about that because it was such a huge deal for us. Not a major impact in terms of like data loss. We actually we proved that our security program was working. We were able to detect, stop, mitigate, but the whole thing was sort of an eye-opener to the board that these things can happen, to our users about how these things can happen, but also showed the value that we were providing, that, hey, we stopped this from being a whole lot worse. Our co-universities and other people we talk to and other people in the industry, I mean, they're seeing these attacks all the time. They're on the rise. It's going to happen, but we've been able to be resilient enough to not have to close our doors, not lose any data, and sort of recover from that. So that was sort of my testing ground, the proving ground, I guess, of the program, and if it was actually working or not.
Yeah. No, and a good sign is because usually if there's any question, the playbook is after an attack or a breach, you fire the CISO. So the fact that you weren't let go and you're still on 2 years later is a huge acumen that you were up to date and communicating with them. The one thing I want to ask you about is, do you think you'd have got the same sort of credibility and respect from the board if that ransomware attack didn't occur? Because one thing I hear from companies, and when I was a CISO, it was the same way. I say the best thing that ever happened to me was having a breach that we controlled and contained, because it showed that, hey, it could happen, but we were well prepared and the money was well invested. Because I've had clients where they haven't had any major breaches, and after a few years, the board's like, oh, we don't need security and things like that. So how, and once again, it's a careful topic, not that you would ever deliberately, but sort of how important do you think sort of having that testing ground or breach was to sort of your credibility?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say two things on it. The first thing about firing of CISOs, I remember when it happened, and when I finally found like the ransom note, I remember calling my wife that night and being like, listen, don't buy anything. We need to save. Might be out of a job here soon. Like, let's see how bad this turns out to be. But it ended up being okay. With our board up until that time, I've been doing some regular reporting with them. We started doing some cybersecurity reporting with them. To your point, very short slides. Not a lot of detail, very high level, but letting them know what we were doing. So they were at least familiar with me. They knew what I was doing. They liked the program so far. I think until you have something that makes you really show the value of the program and that it's working, like you got to see if the juice is worth the squeeze, and if everything that I'm talking about is real, if I've just blown smoke to them for a few years. So I think, walking through, we have one board member who was very technical, CIO of a major healthcare organization. So he at least is familiar with stuff. So when I was able to talk to him a little bit one-on-one before the full board meeting, he was like, okay, I see the situation, it's good. And having that partnership when we go into the board and I'm telling them at a high level what's going on, he's then, reaffirming what I'm saying and giving a little bit more explanations. This is a normal thing that's happening, guys. Zach's handling it. I believe what he's doing is the right thing. Having that from another board member really reinforces what you're doing and kind of makes everyone feel very calm. So I think it definitely worked well. And again, don't let any good crisis go to waste. We made sure when it was over to get a little bit extra here and there to button up some holes. But that I actually have a board meeting later today with the audit committee, or at least an audit committee meeting, and just giving them a quarterly update about where we are with the program and with risk. And we got a good relationship, so it works well.
Cool. Yeah, a couple big nuggets I just want to point out there. One is how when you were sort of building the first couple of years, you spent a lot of time talking with directors and managers and others. And I think that's so important, building those relationships, because a lot of folks from the technical side are comfortable in the data centers, but you really need to build the relationship. And then the other one that is just like triple helping of gold was when you go into a board meeting, you should have some allies. Like whether it's good news or bad news, you need to call somebody ahead of time, brief them, get them on your side. So when you're going in there, you're not fighting. Everyone's not shooting at you. You have a few people holding up shields. So how hard and long was it? Because everyone's like, oh, trying to call board members is difficult. But my guess is it's probably a little easier than you think. Can you sort of comment on how you contact and build that relationship with board members outside the boardroom?
Yeah, I think it's good for you to start like learning the names of the people, find out what their names, connect with them on LinkedIn. At least look them up, see what companies they're with. If you eventually network enough, you start getting connections at these other companies, and I know a couple like either CISOs or CIOs at these places where these board members work. How do you guys report to them? How do you talk to them? Like, what do you do there? What are they used to seeing? And then you can kind of start incorporating that into how you present to them. I work very closely with general counsel and the COO and the CFO. So when I needed to reach out, I was like, you guys have contacts? Like, I want to talk to the chair. I want to talk to this guy here who knows technical stuff. And, you get an email, you get their executive assistant's email, you reach out, they set up a meeting, and you pop on Teams or Zoom and you just talk to them for a few minutes. It's actually pretty easy. They'll carve out, 20 or 30 minutes, especially if it's something major like this. And then, you just build that rapport back and forth. A couple of them have a podcast, and I'll watch a couple episodes and maybe chime in on LinkedIn. Hey, saw this podcast. It was really good. You start just building that recognition that you know what to do.
Yeah. I was going to say, man, you are just hitting it out of the park. I feel like we should go back a few days and you should win the home run series at the All-Star game. No, because that's another huge one that Zach said is get to know those people and interact with them. Like, follow your podcast. That's even one, I'll be honest with you, I'm going to steal because I didn't even think about that one. That's awesome, where follow them online if they have a podcast or social media platform and they're posting content, comment on it positively, right? You want to build a relationship, but show them that you're interacted. And then I find the same thing. If you go in and you call somebody and you know who they are and you've watched their podcast and you show a level of respect, they're going to give you a lot more respect in return.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then let's sort of take it up to sort of 5 years in and sort of looking at the next couple of years. Somebody who's been a CISO for a few years, or in this case, many years, and sort of gone through a couple of crises, like COVID was an unforeseen, not really you, but more IT. And then you had the ransomware. Where do you sort of see yourself? What are you focused on like now in terms of risk and tracking and sort of where things are going over the next couple of years?
Yeah, I currently am also chairing our enterprise risk committee here at the university. I think I wanted to be plugged in pretty tightly to the risk and how everything was being measured and tracked here, and so started as a member and now kind of chairing that. But that gives us a holistic view of everything going on at the university, and almost all risk is at some point going to come back and touch cybersecurity or even IT in some ways. So it's good to be apprised of that, so you kind of know what other departments are going to be doing, what are users going to be doing, and you can kind of help guide them in some way, or at least know what's going on so you can be ready for that. That's really good. Big things for us right now, data classification is still huge, even starting from back in the ransomware days. Like, where is our data? Who has access to it? Where is it going? And sort of categorizing that, and we're doing some really cool stuff around that with some new AI-enabled tools, and kind of how we're watching that and matching it up with policy and need. For me on a professional level, just continuing to learn and educate and try to get better in all things, and then and I mentioned AI. I guess figuring out where that plays in here. I got a lot of people who are very much on board with generative AI, and I got a lot of people who are not so much on board with it. So I tried
And
to
a lot of people have no clue what it is. You have those 3 classes, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, and it's very big in higher ed with what students are doing with it. So, is everyone having, mass cheating everywhere, or are we using it to sort of supplement and gain some efficiencies in places? So I'm co-running that with another person here at the university, kind of spearheading that group and trying to find efficiencies and use cases while also making sure we're using it responsibly, which is really fun, right?
Yeah. No, and that's what I sort of struggle with, because to me, there's no law against using AI like for research.
Yeah.
So then, and I have kids in college where the teachers are like, if you use AI and we catch you, it's cheating and plagiarism. But I'm like, that's like going in and telling a carpenter, if you use a nail gun, that's cheating, right? We're almost creating laws and biases and I don't know what the right answer is, because I understand you want college students to sort of learn the stuff. But if when they get in the real world, they're going to be using AI. I sort of struggle. So if you don't want to answer, you don't have to. But where do you sort of, and you can say in the middle like me, but depending on the day, what's yours being in the university? Is AI a good tool for students, or should it be something that's waited till after they graduate? Or
I mean, if you look at the calculator in the 80s, I mean, it was a lot of the same hesitations and almost hatred towards it at the time, where faculty members didn't want students using calculators because they thought no one would know how to do math anymore. And now it's, you carry one in our pocket all day, and it's almost required for all your math courses and everywhere you are in grade school up through college. So I am a very big proponent of AI. I like it. I really love it. I think it's a really good tool if used responsibly and appropriately. I think education-wise in higher ed, professors should be utilizing it in their classes, should be encouraging use of it. It's going to take a mindset change of how we educate and how we teach and do assessments and types of things like that. But I mean, I told a professor the other day, I was like, your students are using this right now, and when they, again, graduate and get in the workforce, they're not going to stop using it. So how do we use it the proper way? Let's give them the tools they need to be successful. And if that makes them a more successful graduate out in the workforce who can do things even better than the previous generation, then all right, more power to them.
Yep. Now, me and you are so alike, and I just want to emphasize the word tool. Because to me, you see a lot of these execs out there and stuff. I mean, and I don't know why they're doing it. It's not really, to me, good for motivation, telling their employees, 30% of you are going to be replaced by AI, blah, blah, blah. But my rule is, if you don't embrace AI and you're not using it as a tool, it will replace you. Mm-hmm. But if you're using it as a tool, you'll be so much more powerful that there's no way it can replace you. So I'm sort of with you, is if you have all these students that are banned from using AI and then they get out, they're going to have a competitive disadvantage. But if they're getting out with their degree and a new tool called AI, they're going to be much more powerful.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like, the farm, you used to have people who all they did was farm. They worked the fields all day. And then one day they came out and they saw a guy in a tractor, and they were like, man, my job's getting ready to change. I should probably learn how to drive a tractor. Like, learn how to use the new tool that's come out, because if you don't, you're going to get left behind.
Yeah. Accept it. Don't fight it. I love that. One other thing I wanted to comment on, because you said, and I think it's really important when we're talking about current, you said you're still learning, you're still reading, you're still, like, how much time a week or a month do you still spend on sort of learning and reading? Because I think that's something that's missed. People think once they become a CISO, they don't have to learn. And to me, it's constant learning. So can you sort of comment on sort of how much time you have to spend to continue to learn and keep the skills up?
Yeah, I mean, I might be a little bit outside the norm, but I'm almost constantly reading something or watching videos. I've gotten to the point where on my phone, at least, I don't have any social media other than YouTube. So I got rid of the Facebooks and the LinkedIns. Like, I still use social media on the computer, get on LinkedIn and do my posts and stuff to keep up with everything. But, got rid of the Reddits and everything. And now it's I'm reading, I watch videos, I listen to podcasts like Life of a CISO all the time. In the first few years, I think I read probably, 80, 90, 100, security books. Like, I was devouring everything I could get my hands on.
Nice.
Yeah, and now I've shifted that mindset a little bit away. I did a lot of leadership books for a while. I did a lot of business books and things about how you do governance, how boards operate, how just business essentially functions, because I wanted to know more about how that worked, and got a good grip on that. And every now and then I'll peel off and do something else, maybe some philosophy. I love stoicism type stuff, so I'll read some of that.
Me and you are so much. Like Brian Holiday's books. I don't know if
Yeah,
you've read them.
Brian's books are great.
Obstacle is the way. I mean, I love reading the original ones, but they're a little harder. So I think Brian does a good job of Ryan's does a good job of doing that. Yeah, anyone into Stoicism or want to learn Ryan Holiday's books, like The Obstacle is the Way, great way to start.
Yeah, Obstacle is the Way is great. The original Marcus Aurelius' Meditations is a good one. But yeah, I do a lot of stuff there. Videos online. There's 3 or 4 pretty big names that I follow and watch all of their videos. But yeah, I mean, it's constant. It's what I do. If I'm driving in the car, I'm listening to something. At night before bed, I'm reading something, and just trying to keep up on those skills. I got a couple people I'm following right now doing things in AI, so I'm staying up on the latest changes there, and then I'll go out and try it. I mean, I won't be able to talk about it coherently if I don't actually know how to do it. So that's pretty good. I have your book, Cyber Crisis. I see it in the back. I have it on the bookshelf. It's a good one.
I do subtle promotion.
There you go.
We'll zoom out so people can get a better picture there. There we go.
Excellent.
But no, and I think to the audience, I mean, I don't know if you've sensed it. I did, just the passion and purpose that Zach has. And I think the trick is somebody who moved from IT to CISO and been there for 5 years and doing great. It's constant learning. Right? You constantly have to love this stuff and want to keep learning it, because if you stop learning, you're going to become stale very quick. So I can't believe we're at the end of our time, but Zach, it's been a pleasure. And I always like letting you have the last word. So any tips, tricks, or final advice for people that want to get into the CISO role or continue to be a CISO?
I think the best thing to do is, ask questions, ask for things, ask for questions. If there's something you want to do, like I found in my role, hey, there's a job opening that I like. Hey, can I do that job? I think I can do that, and bring some, evidence about why you can do that. But hey, I want to do this. Hey, I want to be on this podcast. Hey, you might be interested in this. Hey, you might be interested in this role, and just reach out and talk to people. Networking is probably one of your greatest assets, and it's sometimes hard for security and IT folks to do that. But once you break out of the shell and start doing that a little bit more, I think things start accelerating very quickly for you, and you get a lot more positive things to go your way as opposed to not.
Yeah. Very well said. Take charge of your career. You're the CEO of your career, and engage and network. So great advice. Zach, it's truly been a pleasure. I'd love to have you back later this year if you're willing. But once again, Zach, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Cole.
You've been listening to Life of a CISO. Tune in next week. And if you have any comments for me or Zach, please post them below and make sure we forward them to Zach or to myself. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.